Thank you, Cynthia, Jean, and Jean. And Alan, thank you. This is beautiful. Rev Celia Young is an ordained interfaith chaplain, UU Zen Buddhist, and founder of the Authentic Being Center. For decades, Reverend Young has provided Fortune 500 corporations consultation to support social justice and inclusive cultures, and she has expanded her ministry and spiritual activism into broader society, offering lectures and leadership and holistic life coaching.
Okay, I hope this thing stays. Thank you very much once again to invite me. Just for that song, I think I'm moving to Studio City. It's wonderful. I mean, every congregation is looking for talent, right? So there's a talent right there. So this topic of spirituality and religion has been debated and analyzed for so many years now. So I thought I also explore it a little bit, although since I am not a scholar, I can only use my layman's lens to look at this topic. Human species have existed and had a way of life on Earth long before religion were created. So how have we survived for millions of years? Was there a set of moral compass as we followed? In the book, Just Babies, The Origins of Good and Evil, Yale psychologist Paul Bloom argued that morality is not just something that people have learned. It's actually something that we're all born with. At birth, babies are endowed with compassion and empathy, with the beginning of a sense of fairness. It is from these beginnings, he wrote, that adults develop their sense of right and wrong and their desire to do good and at times their capacity to do terrible things. Bloom continues to write, the earliest signs are the glimmerings of empathy and compassion, paying at the pain of others, which you can soon see after birth. Once they're capable of coordinated movement, babies often try to soothe others who are suffering by patting and stroking. Young children share a list of moral principles, including an understanding that helping is morally good, that harming and hindering or otherwise thwarting the goal of others morally bad. A rudimentary sense of justice and understanding that good guys should be rewarded and bad guys should be punished. An initial sense of fairness, in particular, there should be an equal division of resources. Socialist, man. Alongside these principles are moral emotions such as empathy. As we were born with such principles, and all the environment, including our parents, teacher, and other adults need to do is to continue to cultivate them in our children. So why do we need religion? In the meantime, along the way, some great ancient philosophers taught their teaching to help us further develop the ethical human being. All three Greek philosophers, including Plato, Aristotle, and Socrates, taught us to continue to examine our lives and use reasoning and critical thinking in the pursuit of our intellectual and moral growth. Confucius taught us respect, humanness, integrity, and righteousness. And Lao Tzu taught the law of nature. And Buddha taught us wisdom, generosity, and patience. All of them taught us compassion, kindness, empathy, peace, harmony, ethics, morality, and happiness. Influenced by these philosophers, many religions were invented to harness these moral principles explain our feelings and experience, and offer solution to our problems. I have to assume they intended to continue to help human beings live a moral and ethical life. In ancient time, monastics in the West and the East dropped out of the world, practiced total devotion to the divine. They follow a strict rule of prayers and chants. This may seem rote and rigid, but by doing it thousands of times, something happened to their mind, body, and emotions. They became one with the Spirit by totally embodying the love, connection to the divine. At least that's what the practice called for. Sufi dervishes, dancers, by whirling around and around and around, often reach ecstasy. There's a deep connection between the man and the spirit they're dancing to express. This total devotion is what religious practice in ancient time was all about. This practice required total trust and obedience in the authoritative teaching and committing to chastity, poverty, and prayer, even without hearing a response back from God. The monastic can do that because they don't have to worry about the price of the eggs. Just like old Chinese saying that ordinary people often have to bend down for a mere bushel of rice. They cannot afford to just commune with the Spirit. In ancient times, churches and temples served as a center of ordinary people's life by offering guidance and communal connection that monastic often experienced. They serve as pillars that remind people what's important, what's devotion on moral ground to support their material lives. But this gathering and our submission to the divine must always be given freely. It cannot be forced. Otherwise, our practices are meaningless and even dangerous at times. Remember in Savita Giaggi's poem, she wrote, "Spirituality is the soul, religion is the body." Each of us embodies our soul in our own way as our own unique religion. 2020 Gallup poll show that Americans' membership in major houses of worship continue to decline, dropping below 50% for the first time in Gallup's 8 decades trend. In 2020, only 47% of Americans said they belonged to a church, synagogue, or mosque, down from 70s since 1999. What caused this decline? There are many reasons why people leave religion. According to Pew Research, most people leave the place of worship because they can no longer find themselves there. Many religious organizations went from being the center of ordinary people's life to becoming the rule bearers and moral authority. The religious doctrine was used to practice intolerance. Many people have been spoon-fed their religion since they were children, without being given a chance to make their own choices. Truth-seeking comes from ourselves, not blindly following others. Unfortunately, we humans have put some of the greatest teachers on the pedestal and surrender our innate power to reason and inquiry for better understanding. Buddha said, "Follow my teaching, not me." Some of the teachers have also got way too comfortable sitting on the throne. These are the reasons why religion becomes shackles and tools for control. Many of us have suffered from the religious wounding. How did religion go so off course from the original teaching? Here are my theories, just a theory, okay? Religious organizations were built by men. Culture existed long before religion. For as long as human has history, our cultures have been dominated by men who established hierarchy of power. All the prophets, including Jesus, were change agents who were considered troublemakers. I was one of those, not as good as Jesus, but I was in my Catholic church that nuns had punished me so many times. The teaching of love, compassion, and empathy were tools that would make an organization and society more egalitarian, but run the contrary to the hierarchy that the traditional patriarchal culture wants to maintain. So they invented punitive God to keep people in line. People follow the rules for fear of being punished by God. The decline of many religious institutions is attributed to their stopping learning something new and locking themselves in their truth as if that is the only truth. When they practice this rigidity onto each other, they put themselves in prison. Those who are lucky enough to become aware and choose to leave or break out of the prison will get a chance to heal their wounds and find their way to wholeness again. If religion is our body, according to Yaji, we'll have to rebuild our own body. As an ordained interfaith chaplain, I have studied world religion extensively and concluded that all original teaching are about love, compassion, kindness, and justice. But we don't always practice that. Having a religion has become a badge or privilege like membership. We divide the world into two camps, those who are with us and those who are not. We use our membership to judge, discriminate, and cast aside others. We forget the original teaching. Maybe it's our culture that has so much hold on ourselves. In the little book, Atheist Spirituality, it's a tiny little book I found in a pile of books, only cost me $5. French contemporary philosopher André Comte-Sponville quoted Kant, another great ancient philosopher. If a person refrains from murdering his neighbor only out of fear of the divine retribution, his behavior is dictated not by moral values, but by cautions, fear of the holy policeman, or egoism. And if a person does good only with an eye to salvation, she's not doing good, since her behavior is dictated by self-interest rather than by duty or love. Therefore, she will not be saved. A good deed is not good because God commanded me to do it. On the contrary, it is because an action is good that it's possible to believe God has commanded it. Rather than religion being the basis of morals, morals are now the basis of religion. Among the declining trend of the traditional religion, 70% Americans said they're spiritual, and 22% said they're spiritual but not religious. You heard about that term, right? Up to 44% of the younger people declare that they are religiously non-affiliated. This means a growing population is trying to look for spirituality somewhere else. In the 60s, the youth rebelled against meaningless and materialistic world built after World War II. They ignited a cultural revolution. I was one of those people. The Flower Child, the Haight-Ashbury, the Woodstock movement tried to break free from the shackle of the rigid society. The youth were looking for a simpler and more authentic lives. Their gift to the generation afterwards, including music, art, and literature. After these groups of rebellious youth have grown up, they become part of the establishment, hold all the wealth, control all the institution. These boomers, including me, are retired, can afford to volunteer in the churches and other civil and nonprofit organizations. Just like the generation they tried to rebel against, now they're more interested in maintaining tradition and keeping the legacy than rebellion and innovation. This is the old church lady syndrome, we call them. Remember Saturday Night Live, all right? Additionally, research showed that younger generations like millennials and Gen Z had lower levels of interpersonal and institutional trust than the older generation did at their age, because they are experiencing higher economic stress that the American dream is almost impossible to achieve. They also get exposed to more endless sources of misinformation. Lastly, they're witnessing the institutional failure, political corruption, diminishing democratic process, and corporation greed. On the other hand, millennials and Gen Z people place a high value on purpose-driven collaboration and meaningful relationship. They thrive on dialogue than strict top-down directives. And they were raised in team-oriented activities and projects that rewarded open communication, shared problem-solving, and continuous feedback. So when a traditional church organization continued to practice top-down operation and protect its tradition, the younger generation very quickly discovered their voice is not heard and their ideas are not valued. When they challenge the church directive, they are often seen as troublemakers. Sooner or later, they either get squeezed out or they choose to leave. While many step away from the organized religion, a large number still explore sacred meaning through personal wellness behaviors, habits, a collective belief system through digital spaces, nature, secular community activities. We Unitarian Universalists have a long history of rebellions against the establishment. This is how we take pride in ourselves, on our belief in the 8 principles rooted in that universal love. But when the actual institution failed to put these practices into practice, we are no different from any of the other traditional religious institutions that we run away from. Henry David Thoreau and Ralph Waldo Emerson, 2 of the pioneers in the Unitarian Universalist world, have moved away from the organized and rigid congregational life and found their path to connect to the nature. To me, the Spirit is an energy like a river that flows through us and connects us to the universe. It is much bigger than the individual being. 1 + 1 equals much more than 2, like a chemical reaction. We are parts of this whole called the divine, God, or greater power. It is this connection that let us know that we're not alone. This power is inside all of us, and it's not an object or a separate entity. To become our whole self is to honor that spirit that nourishes us from within. What is your definition of spirituality? I'm sure if we ask 100 people to define this term, we'll find 100 different answers. Pew Research showed that 72% of the spiritual but not religious people said being connected to one's true self and the cosmos is essential of being spiritual. Many want to find a higher power within themselves, and at the same time, they want to find a connection to others and humanity. They want to be kind, respectful, mindful, finding inner peace, purpose, meaning, and a sense of direction. We are back to where we already know, have learned a million years ago as our innate moral compass. These moral principles have not changed. Getting beyond the debate between spirituality or religion, if we want to live up to our wholeness, we need to remind ourselves to come home to this set of moral compass we already have. Reasoning, interconnection, compassion and love, empathy, peace and harmony, respect for human dignity and human rights, justice, sense of community, and social responsibilities. Our Unitarian Universalist 8 principles follow these compasses. The challenge is to remind ourselves to walk our daily talk. One way is to practice mindfulness. It means to quiet down our busy mind and pay attention to our intention. Ask ourselves a few simple questions. Am I following these moral compass right now? Can I forgive myself for getting off track? What is the smallest step I can take now to get myself back on track? Remember, having a religion is fine as long as it's yours. Namaste, shalom, amen, blessed be. Thank you. We're doing a closing hymn now? Okay, closing hymn.
Please rise in body or spirit as you are able to sing our closing hymn, number 131, Love Will Guide Us.